Now then, lads, and welcome back. Now today, I am here to redeem a tank before it is too late. Yesterday, Darkflow announced the new balance changes for the next update, and amongst them was a change that I am personally not very happy with, and that's the moving of the Panzer 3N to BR3 from BR2. So today, I will be speaking to you in defense of the Panzer 3N. Firstly though, what is the Panzer 3N? Well, it's the final BR2 tank for the Germans, and it comes armed with a 75mm short-barreled cannon, and the whole sorta bundle and the tank itself is designed for infantry support. However, it is now potentially going to be up-tiered from BR2 to BR3, which in my opinion is a really bad move, as the 3N will not be able to survive there and will basically become barely used. But why is that important? Well, put simply, Germany doesn't have too many infantry support tanks like the 3N. Now yes, if this change is implemented, it does mean that the 3N will be pushed up to fighting things such as the Sherman and the T-34 more often, especially if those BR3 changes get implemented. Which basically means people aren't going to pick it as much, because why would they pick a tank that can't kill other tanks as easily if they're going to mainly be fighting harder tanks? But first though, why do players even have a problem with the Panzer 3N to begin with? Like, why don't people like it? What big change? What big reason does everyone have to wanting it to be pushed up to BR3? Well, let's have a look. Well, from what I can gather, it's mainly due to a mix of both its armour being very good and its cannon being very infantry-focused, which ends up also highlighting the armour problem a lot more. Now, before we get looking into these problems, we first need to make a pretty important distinction. Now, currently in the game, there are 3 different Panzer 3Ns in Enlisted, not including Battle Pass reskins. There's first the Tech Tree one, which is the free one everyone can unlock, the old Premium Squad from Tunisia, which I don't believe you can buy anymore, and the Stalingrad version, which is significantly different, as you can see here. Now, the Premium and Tech Tree variants are pretty much the exact same, but the Stalingrad one is a lot rarer because you needed to have the expensive Stalingrad pass, but it also has a bunch of differences that make it my personal favourite of the 3. Now, what are those key differences? Well, firstly, it's their armour. The Legacy version, as Darkflow called it, has no side hull Scherzen, and this means that it's, in theory, easier to penetrate from the side. And its other change is the fact that, in terms of rounds, it only comes with APHE and heat, whereas the regular and premium variants have mainly APHE with HE rounds, along with 7 extra rounds of heat. They also all come with smoke rounds too, but no one uses those. Anyway, with those differences outlined between the different versions of the tank, let's get into the first primary issue that people have with the 3N, and that's its armour. Now, the Panzer 3N actually does have some quite unique armour for its tier. It primarily has 50mm all around, which isn't too unusual for a BR2 German tank, but the problem mainly lies with the Scherzen, or spaced armour. All variants of the Panzer 3N have some variant of it, but the Tech Tree and the premium variants have extra hull armour. Now, the problem mainly lies in how this armour works. Put simply, when using a launcher of some kind, most commonly it's fighting the M1 bazooka currently, the Scherzen can stop the round from penetrating as effectively from a lot of further ranges. Let's just make a little note of that. But at closer ranges, though, it can kill it in a couple rockets if you know where to aim. So, just learn how to kill tanks. But it is worth noting this Scherzen is only 5mm thick, so all other tanks at its BR, such as the Crusader or the T-50, can pretty easily penetrate right through it with no problems. So if tanks can kill you with good aiming, and launchers can kill you with good aiming, what about the other AT weapons? Are they less effective? Well, partially. The explosion pack has to be thrown better, as it can just damage the Scherzen, not, killing the tank, which is a bit of a problem. And the TNT can't be placed on the Scherzen, otherwise it normally won't kill the tank. But I have seen it kill it a couple times, but I think that might be a bug. Here is the main problem with it, as many players would argue that this makes the two most effective AT weapons way less powerful, and therefore would argue that the tank should be up-tiered because of it. But I don't really like that line of reasoning. Here's the thing, yes, it does mean at higher BRs there are other things that can kill it a lot quicker, namely AT launchers and other tanks, but it doesn't fix the problems with the explosion pack and the TNT anyway. Like, even if the tank was in BR5, you'd still have the same problems killing it with an explosion pack as you would if you were in BR2. So, this is why I have a gut feeling that the armor may be one of the main reasons to up-tier the tank to begin with. And that wouldn't fix the problem anyway, because, in my opinion, that's not the main reason. However, with that said, I want to get onto the other potential reason, and that is the gun itself. So, let's get into the gun. The Panzer IIIN is, at its heart, an infantry support tank. Therefore, it is armed with a howitzer to kill infantry. This means that it has to have pretty good HE or heat rounds, since it needs to fulfill its main role of supporting the infantry by killing entrenched infantry. This is where the problems start to arise. The 3N needs to kill infantry, so it has quite a pitiful APHE round to discourage it from going after tanks. This is the main reason why I prefer the Legacy version, purely because it has a better heat round that can deal with tanks and infantry both kind of equally. This problem, though, leads the Tech Tree 3N to have to carry some small amount of heat too, so it can be, somewhat successful in actually front-panning tanks. Now, it does list that in the proposed changes, the HE will be removed and replaced with a new heat round, while saying the Legacy version will remain unchanged. This would make me think that the heat rounds they're going to give the new Panzer IIIN at BR3 are the heat rounds from the tank at BR2, which seems really dumb, as the heat rounds from the Legacy 3N don't hold up well in those higher tiers. So it's essentially up-tiering the regular versions whilst nerfing their actual ability to kill infantry and tanks, which is inane and stupid. Right, okay. With that all mentioned, I want to get back to that note, the bit from the armor that I was on about. So, the Scherzen, which are the thin metal plates on the side of the tank, that stops rockets penetrating at longer ranges. This is, in my opinion, the main reason for the up-tier. Because while writing the script for this video, it made me basically realise the problem. The Panzer IIIN is so good because it is primarily used as a grey zoning tank, used to spam the objective with HE. That is primarily how people use it. Most people don't drive up and use it. Most people are using this pretty far behind the back lines. So Darkflow is essentially giving it a better heat round, so that it would make grey zoning using this tank, the current playstyle it's used for, really easier. Because with a heat round, you don't have to swap between high explosive or APHE. You can just use one round to kill both tanks and people. So this basically means what Darkflow are really doing by this change is buffing the 3N by essentially making it a BR3 grey zoning monster because Germany doesn't have any infantry support tanks past BR3. So they are literally making a tank known for grey zoning actively worse by actively encouraging that play style. That is so dumb that it genuinely baffles me that they have only just, this actually made it to the public test phase. That's literally the biggest problem with the tanks currently in the game, and Darkflow has essentially just encouraged a tank that is known for it to do it more in a more common BR. It just... Look, it just seems like a really silly idea to me. Okay, so With all of that being said, I just want to note that the Legacy Stalingrad one, the one that I use, is actually not getting any of the new changes, so it's still going to be an option for all 3 people who want to use it at BR2. And overall, considering the BR changes now, you know, how BR3 is going to be like its own little thing and it'll only fight tiers 2 and 4 now, it does mean that there's still going to be 3 ends in BR2 matches. You know what, after all of this, I feel kind of stupid. Like, this isn't even really that bad of a problem. This is literally them just buffing the tank I already really like, and now I feel stupid for getting so angry over these changes. They basically just buffed it, and then I decided to go white knighting about why I prefer the old version. God damn it. Overall then, I think the changes for the Panzer 3N won't be that bad, considering it's now just going to be the best mid-tier point-spamming grey-zoning arsehole tank in the game, but hey, at least I can still have fun with it, and my main tank is still not changing at all, so yeah, that also just doubles down that this video was for nothing. Well, I mean, it's not for nothing. I mean, I can at least say I've warned you guys when this thing becomes a grey-zoning hellscape, you know, fighting this thing, but oh well, guess I just wasted my time then. Crap. Well, with that said, thank you for watching this, ramble, scream, whatever you want to call this. Anyway, thank you for watching, lads, and, goodbye.